Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the movie Rambo Last Blood. And I would not recommend seeing this movie. It's not really a good action movie, and it's not really a good Rambo movie. It just doesn't really work on an action movie premise or even within the framework of trying to make its own coherent plot. It is just 89 minutes of strange plot demanding and connecting things to get to the last kind of 20 to 25 minutes where most of the action occurs. Now, an action movie should mainly be made up of action. Shock, thunder cracks, everything like is shaken. No. The thing is, I understand that you need plot moments to try and carry things forward, but these are so hilariously badly done that you're waiting for it to be over with so that way you can get to what action you're supposed to be teased with. I mean, most of the stuff that you've seen in the trailer is pretty much it. I mean, if you want a good action movie, go to the John Wick series. That does a great job of balancing plot and action and not being to the point of just balls to the wall. It gives you an action sequence, lets it breathe, and then moves us organically to the next one going on, and where the plot actually works within its framework. This is just kind of funny and stupid about what's going on at all points. So we are introduced to John Rambo on a farm. We are not exactly sure whose farm it is, because that is not an important thing going on to at least give you that kind of thing in the movie. But evidently he's training horses and he is looking after his niece Gabrielle, and she's evidently going to be going to college, but she gets it in her head to want to go find her father at some point. And she's actually had her one friend who's in Mexico looking for her father. And she's going to go to a party, but Rambo's like, hey, why don't you bring him here and show him the tunnels? I'm like, dude, any parent that's like, hey, you want to go let our kids go to these tunnels that this weird dude like built, like in the middle of nowhere? Huh? Granted, I understand teenagers trying to do stupid, dumbass things, but I'm like, if that's not the plot of like a serial killer thing going on, I don't know. I'd just be like, Now, granted, they have a good, fun time. She gets a phone call from her friend, I found your father! And she's like, I need to go find my father. For reasons, because the plot demands it. Seriously, like the dialogue's so bad, it's like, the plot demands, I must do this. Rambo's like, don't do it, your dad's a dickhole. And then the lady that is on the farm as well is like, he's a dickhole. Now, it was never really clear what her relationship to Gabrielle was, but I was going like a grandmother kind of thing. Maybe, I don't know. That it wasn't very clear in what was going on with the plot. I'm like, okay, I know they're here, but whatever. And she's like, screw it, I'm not gonna. She goes off and does it anyway, meets up with her friend, and goes, and her father is a dickhole. And I'm like, yeah, Rambo was right. He is a dickhole. What the fuck? He feels nothing for her. Fuck you. Whatever. Granted, he doesn't even really have enough energy to muster the fuck you, but we continue on. She is then upset, and her friend then takes her to a club where she gets drugged and taken by the cartel. That's pretty much it. Even with all the scenes going on, it's like, oh, okay. So, the older lady's like, she's gone to Mexico, and Rambo's like, fine, and goes off. And then he first goes to the father, which was nothing really. I understand what was supposed to be there. He's like, threatening him, I'm like, wow. I know what you're trying to show here, and the father is barely even relevant to the plot anymore at this point anyway, so it's like, okay, Rambo being Rambo. And then he goes and he sees that the friend, Giselle, has taken like this thing that belonged to Gabrielle's mother who died of cancer. And he pulls out his big ass fucking knife because he can forge that kind of shit, and he's like, take me to where she is, or take me to where you took her. She then leads him to the club, shows him the dude, and this woman for some reason is fucking eyeing Rambo like a motherfucker, and it's like, okay, what's going on here? So he goes, and we get to one of actually the most gruesome fucking like torture scenes in this movie. It's like, holy shit. He grabs a dude, stabs him in the leg, pops out the dude's fucking collarbone and breaks it. It's like, where's my daughter? Well, not where's my daughter, but where's my niece? Same kind of difference. And he's like, I'll show you. And then they drive off. Ladies following him. He shows him the building. He knocks him out. Goes and, granted, Rambo is a Green Beret. And stupidly cases this because the plot demands that the cartel fucking like gets everybody together and brings them. We've seen that like Gabrielle's getting like her rundown shakedown and everything. It's like, oh shit. But it was like brought up to these people. And this is the weirdest group of fucking cartel enforcers I've ever seen. I swear to God. There was like these dudes that were like 50 and above. Old ass motherfucker enforcers. Like grunt level shit. I'm not talking like old guys that are like, oh, are part of this. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? They're like as old as Rambo here. It's something that caught my attention, mainly just because there's nothing else really. Rambo grunts. Dude's like, what are you doing here, you old fucker? And they take his license and shit, and they beat his ass up because they're like, oh, this is your niece or whatnot. Well, guess what? I would have just ignored her and sold her off, but now we're going to fuck with her. And then Rambo is like cut up because that's what the one Victor dude does. And they just leave him for dead. Lady takes him, and they screw over the chick. They keep injecting her with like heroin and all that shit. Cut her face and pretty much use her and abuse her. Rambo wakes up 4 days later, finds out that the lady that took his ass is an investigative journalist because these people did it to her sister. That is about the gist of her involvement. She directs him to a prostitute house to get his niece, and then later directs him to the house of the dude that cut his face. So, he does a little scene, knocks out everybody, pretty much tells the prostitute, sex trafficked people to leave the fucking house. They're like, they'll kill me. And they're like, alright. He gets the niece, drives, saying that he liked that he had a family and had hope and all that stuff. And his niece dies in the car, and he's able to get back across the border because he like drives through a barbed wire fence and pretty much breaks the news to the old lady. They bury her. Old lady leaves because I'm gonna be sad until I die, pretty much, and goes. And I was like, I'm pissed. Goes back to the lady, says, I want to finish this shit. Ain't nothing right. Gives him the coordinates to one brother. He goes in and quickly knifes through pretty much everyone because these cartel people suck ass completely. And then we go to the next day and we see that the police and the media are there. His brother pops up and sees that his brother's head was cut off, and that Rambo kept the head and just threw it down the road because the plot demanded that we see this. It would have been more effective to do it another way. But then we get to the main set piece of the movie at the end where Rambo booby traps the whole place. It's like, oh, okay, this is interesting, but not really. I mean, these are the usual kind of things that you want to drive an action movie towards. The thing is, this is really the only set piece. The brothel scene was just not really that engaging to me. I mean, yeah, there were some gruesome hits and everything, but just the way it was shot in that way, it kind of went down. It didn't feel like a set piece. It just felt like a bump on the road. Same thing going on with him going through the brother's house. It just didn't really feel like an action-y portion of the movie going on. And all the plot is just kind of barely there. So he's like getting ready. We see him setting up stuff. Like, I say foreshadowing, but it's like, no, this is going to be important, as we see him like shooting cards and all that. And then bro's like, let's get to this. And honestly, I would have rather taken a different route with this, because this dude is able to bring like all of his people to this, like they had a tunnel under the border, and they've got their own kind of place. I'm like, wouldn't like FBI, DEA, anybody else be able to be like, hey, a complete tactical squad force of pretty much a paramilitary cartel people have now started operating. I just would have thought it would have been funny if they got to him before Rambo. But they get to his house, blow up one car, and just funnel it through this haunted house, essentially, of death. And that's an apt comparison because a crappy haunted house, you see all of that shit popping up and it doesn't really scare you anything. A masterfully built haunted house keeps you on your toes. How'd you be like, wow, how is this going to play out? And you just see everything kind of fall into place. I swear to God, he killed more people in the tunnels than came in his cars. It's like, whatever. And it's all built to the one brother being the last one standing anyway. I mean, there was interesting ones with him using his double-barrel shotgun, like an M1 Grand and all that, using booby traps and everything. And I'm like, wow, these... For the training that is supposed to be like shown with these cartel people, even though there really wasn't any because they were able to just beat his ass because the plot demanded it, and now because the plot demands Rambo does this shit, it works. He's just annihilating them left and right. I mean, he gets like a shoulder hit and a side hit, and he's like, come on out. And like, I'm going to rip your beating heart out. And he shoots him with the arrows, sticks him to the wall, and rips his heart out. And then says he's going to keep the memory of his loved ones alive as he's like rocking and bleeding. And then at the end of the movie, it shows all the like better Rambo movies as he then gets a horse because he had like gotten the horses out beforehand and then rides off. This was just poorly paced, poorly plotted, and a crappy Rambo movie. And I like action movies. I haven't seen like the first Rambo all the way through. I've seen enough to be like, wow, I kind of like how they do this whole story with Rambo and everything that's going on and how it's not completely an action movie even though action happens. This was just like trying to do the best of both worlds of what happened to the Rambo franchise of the first one was like an examination of war and coming back and everything like that. And then it turned into a full-blown action movie, and this is just like the mashing of those together and not doing any kind of work to really connect it and just making a really crappy plot to go with it. I didn't feel anything when the niece died. I didn't feel anything when the old lady left. And I didn't feel anything when Rambo was going through all the motions. I'm just like, wow. No cheering moments. No like, oh crap, like when John Wick is taking down just a random dude, how he masterfully does it, or how he's setting up for the next hit. There's a kind of artistry to that isn't here. This is just like low-grade action porn, pretty much. Almost onto the edge of like the torture porn kind of stuff. Because they're trying to get you to the visceral reaction of, oh, did you see that dude's head kind of going like this? Or did you see we ripped this dude's heart out like this? But if you don't build up for the emotional payoff for that, it doesn't work. I didn't care about his niece dying, so I'm not really feeling him when he's going after the cartel people. They keep putting him in these kind of situations and not moving anything forward, just status quoing this shit. And that's where it kind of fails. So, there's definitely better action movies out there. Go see them. I would not go to the movie theaters to see this. Save your money, go see something else, anything else. And I wouldn't even rent this. There's other better Rambo movies. Go watch them and don't even think about this ever existing. So those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.